Intro. The craziest things people used for money. What if I told you the money in your pocket started as shells grained giant lumps of metal? Before we had crisp bills and shiny coins, people got really creative with how they paid for things. We're talking about a world where your wealth could literally be eaten by rats or rust away. It sounds insane, but this is the true story of money. Today, we're going on a high-speed journey through financial history. This isn't going to be some boring history lesson. We're counting down 15 of the most mind-blowing facts about the origins of money, and we're doing it all in under 10 minutes. I've dug up some of the craziest, most unbelievable forms of currency from ancient times. So, picture this. You're an ancient farmer and you have a ton of wheat, but what you really need is a new pair of shoes. Simple, right? You just find a shoemaker and trade. But what if the shoemaker doesn't need wheat? What if he wants a new clay pot? Now you have to find a potter who wants wheat trade for a pot, then take that pot to the shoemaker. This whole problem is called the double coincidence of wants, a massive headache. This system, known as bartering, was humanity's first attempt at commerce. Now, and it was super inefficient. Imagine trying to build a house by only trading chickens. How many chickens is a window worth? How many for the roof? What if the lumberjack doesn't even like chicken? It gets complicated fast. People spent more time finding the right person to trade with than actually producing things. The limitations were insane. So, with bartering being a total disaster, people started looking for a better way. The first solution was something called commodity money. This is where you pick a specific item, a commodity, and everyone in the society agrees to use it as currency. It had to be something that was useful and that people generally wanted anyway. This was a huge step up from random bartering. Some of the earliest examples are things you might find on a farm. In many agricultural societies, grain became the standard. Barley, wheat. You could use it to pay taxes, buy land, or even pay wages. The logic was simple. Everyone needs to eat, so grain always has value. In other parts of the world, especially pastoral societies, cattle became the currency. Your wealth was literally walking around in a field. But this system had some pretty obvious and sometimes hilarious flaws. If your money was grain, you had to protect it from rats, mold, and moisture. A leaky roof could literally wipe out your savings. Okay, so grain rots and cows are inconvenient. What's next? Believe it or not, seashells, cowrie shells, small white porcelain-like snails, one of the first international currencies. They had all the right properties: small, lightweight, easy to carry. Unlike a giant bag of barley, incredibly durable. They don't rot or rust, difficult to find. Main source, the Maldive Islands. You couldn't just hit your local beach and get rich. Scarcity, stable value. Their use was massive. West Africa, Middle East, China, Pacific Islands. Some parts of Africa used them into the 20th century. Even tax systems built around shells. Money for symbolic value. You can't eat a cowrie shell. You can't build a house with one. Its value came from social agreement and exchange. A massive mental leap. Money just needed trust. That trust led to metal. As societies got more complex, they needed a form of money that could handle bigger transactions. Shells were great for small purchases, but you'd need a mountain of them to buy a ship. This is where metal enters the picture. Before coins, people started using chunks of valuable metals as money. Copper, silver, gold. We're talking about rough, unrefined lumps, rings, bars. The idea was simple. Metal is rare, metal is durable. You can melt it down and reshape it. But there was a huge problem. How do you know how much a lump of metal is worth? Every single time you wanted to make a transaction, you had to bring out a set of scales and weigh the metal, even chisel it down. The constant need for weighing and cutting opened the door for cheating. The solution was one of the most important and underrated inventions in the history of money: standardized weights. These weren't just random rocks. They were carefully crafted from polished stone and government approved. Shekels, minas, talents, each a specific recognized unit of weight. With a standardized system, a shekel of silver meant the same thing across cities, unlocking long-distance trade. People were now used to metal by weight value. The only thing missing was a way to make the process even faster and more trustworthy. This is it, the moment everything changes. For centuries, people had been dealing with the hassle of weighing out chunks of metal for every purchase. Then, around the 7th century BCE, in a kingdom called Lydia, modern-day Turkey, what if, instead of weighing the metal every time, you pre-weighed it into standard sizes and stamped it with a symbol to guarantee its weight and purity? This was the birth of the coin. That stamp was basically a promise from the issuer, likely a king or a temple. Suddenly you didn't need scales anymore. You could just count out the coins. A transaction that used to take minutes could now be done in seconds. The idea was so good that it spread like wildfire across the entire ancient world. So, the Lydians invented the first coins, but what were they actually made of? It wasn't pure gold or pure silver. They were made from a strange, naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver called electrum. The ratio of gold to silver could vary, so equal weight coins could have different intrinsic values. The stamp was a guarantee not just of weight, but of value. Eventually, King Croesus produced the first true gold and silver coins with standardized purity. Once rulers figured out they could stamp metal to guarantee its value, they quickly realized something else. They could put whatever they wanted on the coins. The small, flat surface of a coin became the world's first form of mass media and a powerful tool for propaganda. Early coins had simple designs. Later, rulers put their own faces on coins. Coins suggested divine approval, boasted victories, announced heirs, celebrated monuments, and promoted peace or prosperity. Coins were more than money, they were historical documents. Coins created a simple, universal language of value. A Greek merchant could sail to Egypt or Persia with silver drachmas and be accepted. Metal content and standard weights made transactions straightforward. On the Silk Road, silk and spices traveled one way, coins the other, and we've dug them up across continents. Coins helped spread technologies, culture, and even the concept of coinage itself. Money was connecting the world in a very real, physical way. While coins were taking off in the Mediterranean, in Mesopotamia, they developed sophisticated accounting long before coins. They used small clay tokens, a cone for grain, a sphere for oil, a cylinder for an animal. This system tracked debts, taxes, and stored goods for thousands of years. They sealed tokens inside a clay bulla, stamped outside as a tamper-proof envelope. Those impressions were a direct precursor to cuneiform writing. Egyptian farmers deposited grain in state granaries and got papyrus receipts. Those receipts specified amount and quality and began to circulate as money. Instead of hauling sacks, you could pay or settle debts with a note backed by real grain. Same principle as the gold standard. Paper had value because it was redeemable. Another system grew in parallel. Credit. The idea of buy now, pay later is ancient. Promissory tablets recorded loans and interest, legally binding IOUs. Temples and storehouses acted like early banks, managing deposits and loans. Money could be a promise, recorded on clay or papyrus. As soon as governments started making coins, they realized a sneaky way to profit. The process is called debasement. Recall coins, melt them, mix in cheaper metal, remint more coins of the same look, pocket the difference. The Roman denarius went from nearly pure silver to bronze, with a thin silver wash. People noticed. Prices skyrocketed. Trust in currency and government collapsed. Often, new monetary systems were imposed by conquest. Demanding taxes only in imperial coins forced everyone into the conqueror's economy. Using that coin became a daily reminder of power. Alexander the Great spread standardized coinage, unifying economies and culture for centuries. Rulers imitated his coins long after, proof of money's power as policy. So, we've gone on a wild journey from bartering cows to stamping the faces of emperors on metal. If you look at this entire story, you can see one single powerful trend, a slow and steady shift from money with intrinsic value to money based purely on trust. It's a move from the physical to the symbolic. Early money, like cattle, grain, had value because you could actually use it for something. Then we moved to shells, metal lumps, coins added trust in the authority that stamped them. Debasement broke that trust. Beistan turned down, and the system suffered. The paper bills in your wallet, the digital numbers in your bank account have zero intrinsic value. You can't eat them or build with them. Their entire value comes from a shared belief, a collective trust, and a government guarantee. The history of money isn't about metal or paper. It's the history of how we learn to trust each other on a massive scale. 15 insane facts that show how we got the money we use today. It's crazy to think that the simple act of buying a coffee is the result of thousands of years of trial, error, and unbelievable innovation. The next time you pull out your wallet, you'll know the wild history behind it. If you found these facts fascinating, like, subscribe, and comment which fact surprised you most. Want a part 2? Tell us below.